Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Fear the Walking Dead video for today, leading up to the 4th episode of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4. In this one, we're going to start with giving our thoughts on whether or not we think that Morgan will eventually take over as lead for Fear, and then we'll get into more of your guys' Q&A questions. And spoiler warning, as per usual, if you are not caught up for Fear the Walking Dead, which is up to episode 3 of season 4. So I decided I would do this last kind of Q&A video for today, before tonight's episode 4 premiere. Lots of questions were sent through this week after episode 3, of course. It was a crazy episode. It was a huge episode. The big character death and everything else that they did in that episode was pretty nuts. So I wanted to kind of, wrap up a few of these last few questions before we get a new episode tonight, and then we'll have, lots of videos this week coming up for next week. So I felt like we did quite a few this week. We've done lots of discussion about the Nick death and whether or not Maddison will survive, how long the series is going to last. Just lots of stuff this week with all the questions explaining the death. Frank Delane letting everybody know, or us kind of finding out that he had actually been asked to be killed off. And so storyline-wise, if he didn't ask to be killed off, he probably would survive for many more seasons to come. But it sounds like the actor wanted out, and so they gave him an out this season with Morgan coming in, and it made a lot of sense. And so that's what they decided to do. So continuing along with kind of the discussions that we've had this week and the question of whether or not Maddison is still alive. As you guys have seen the videos this week, my prediction is I think she is, but I think everybody there thinks she's dead. So I think she will kind of come back and still be in the series, afterwards. But, it brings to question, if she is dead, could we actually see Morgan eventually lead Fear? So could Fear end up becoming Morgan's series? And what would that look like if they did that? Of course, they did the crossover this year, so there was a lot of promotion around Morgan crossing over. He got his own kind of episode or episodes there near the beginning with the big premiere for Season 4, which was really great. He was kind of the lead character for that episode. But could he become like kind of the overall lead character, like the Rick of Fear at some point? It all depends on Maddison, I think, right now, and what Kim Dickens wants to do in the role, how long she wants to hang on for Fear the Walking Dead. I hope she's kind of in it for the long haul and she wants to go forward with this for many years to come. But it's probably not a good sign that Frank decided to leave, and he plays Nick, of course, for those of you guys. And, it brings the question, like, are the other people who were involved originally going to want to stay? It seems like Alicia probably will, but don't know for sure. And then Maddison is a big question, whether or not she's actually going to be, killed off, whether she's going to be alive, and how they'll use that. Because really, if you killed off Maddison at this point, I would say that basically they pretty much did a soft reboot with Fear. If they kill Maddison off and all you really have left of the first 3 seasons is basically Alicia, Strand, and Lucy, then you're basically done. You've killed off everybody from the first 3 seasons that really meant anything. Maybe Daniel's out there somewhere, and we might see him or we might not, whatever happens with that. But if they basically do that, we're pretty much seeing a new version of Fear, which I really hope they don't go that route, because if they do that, it really makes it feel like the first 3 seasons were kind of useless, or they did them, but there wasn't enough, like, there was so much setup and there were so many characters and we saw all this stuff, and then they all pretty much ended up dying. It would just make it feel like, it's kind of like if you watch the original Walking Dead series and in season 5 or something, everybody died, or Rick was dead and everybody else was dead, and then you brought in a new group and they kind of took over. What I kind of wanted to see with Fear was, I wanted to see Morgan complement and add to, as an A-lister, Fear, to bolster it and make it even better. I didn't really want to see him come in and take the series over, but from what we're seeing so far and how small that roster is getting with Fear, if Maddison is out, then I really would have to say that Morgan basically is the one to kind of lead Fear. I really hope they don't go that route, but if they had to, I guess it's better than canceling Fear. It's just, I don't really like this whole idea of rebooting a series or doing like a soft reboot in this way or something like this. It kind of feels like for Fear, it's kind of a product right now of misdirection, I feel like. Like at first, they never wanted to do the crossover. They decided, why don't we do it? They did it. And then afterwards, we lose Nick. And then if you lose anybody else from kind of that original core roster, it really starts to feel like they're just kind of, trashing the original Fear. Like they're trashing those first few seasons, letting those go or don't care. And whether or not it's AMC's decision to do that and the showrunner's decision, or whether or not the cast just kind of wants out, in terms of that world and the way I look at it creatively, I'm sitting here saying to myself, like, if they do that, they're basically scrapping all of Fear before, and they're just kind of giving it over to Morgan to keep the series going, maybe keeping Alicia in there and some of the others as well too, just to kind of act like it's a thing. But really, you've basically killed off that whole original group, and that would just feel like such a shame. It's kind of like horror movies. If you ever see a horror movie like, I don't know, Jaws or something, where by the end of the movie, maybe I haven't seen Jaws for a long time, but any horror movie, but where by the end of the movie, the villain or the monster has killed off everybody. That the taste you have left in your mouth when everybody is dead at the end of the movie is like, why did I bother to watch that? Like, what's the point? Because nobody survives out of the original group. If they kill off absolutely everyone, that's the feeling I get, at least, when I watch something like that. I mean, it can, like, I guess the most memorable character, if you do that, is the monster, is the shark, or is whatever kind of, villain or monster wins. But, yeah, I think you got to have some of the characters from the beginning still survive. Otherwise, you're scrapping the whole thing, and it feels kind of disrespectful to people that have been fans of Fear since the beginning in order to do that. So I feel like as a result of that, I really hope they don't kill Maddison off. I really hope she's still around, and I think she kind of needs to be in order to kind of validate those first 3 seasons. Otherwise, it just feels like they're scrapping them. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. It's not that Morgan couldn't lead a Walking Dead series. I think he could. But for the fans that have been around since the beginning, I think it's just super disrespectful to do that. So I really hope that's not what we're seeing here, and I hope that's not what happens later on this season. But, as we go through these episodes, we'll make the videos, we'll weigh in on it, we'll give our thoughts, and that's what it is. ES brought this one on. He said, how do you not see it? The stadium is already lost, Maddison is dead, and they're hunting the vultures. So that's what they think. So I hope you're wrong, ES. That's all I'm saying. I really hope you're wrong. They're not allowed to kill Nick off. What the actual F? Somebody said. And you're kind of right. Like, I agree with you. In terms of the creative direction of the series, you can't really kill Nick off and have it work that well, I don't think. Unless you want to go for that kind of breaking all the rules type of situation where you kill off the characters people least expect. I think that's really hard to pull off. When you're killing off fan favorite characters, a lot of times fans just turn on the series and they don't want to watch it anymore. You kill off the audience too along with them. So really, they shouldn't have killed Nick off. They should have tried to find a way to keep the actor going. But I guess you can't force someone to do a job if they really don't want to do it, right? It's not slavery. If he wants to quit or whatever out of his contract or what have you, then I guess you kind of have to let him go. Maddison is already dead. If she was still alive, Nick wouldn't have forced that guy to take him to her. Strand, Alicia, and Lucy are the only characters left, I believe. And Charlie has to die now. So that's his comment. That would also fit, though, if Nick thought she was dead and she isn't. So we'll see about that. Anxious Neck Game says, as much as I love Morgan, the only real reason I'd watch was for Nick. I guess I'm done with Fear now, LOL. And again, that's the way a lot of people might be feeling right now. After they killed off Nick, they might be like, well, he was pretty much the best character in Fear before Morgan joined and the other new characters from this season, and that's just really a shame. I view it the same way, man. I'm really just thinking it's a damn shame they killed him off, because I really felt like he was such a cool character, and they could have done so much with him, maybe him and Troy. But really, it's just cut so short that it's with both of them. At least if Troy would have survived season 3, it wouldn't be so bad, because he could kind of be somewhat similar to Nick in a lot of ways there, and it could be an interesting loose cannon to have around. But they killed so many people off in season 3. Now they've kind of painted themselves in a corner. They have to bring in new characters, and it really is feeling like a soft reboot in a lot of ways. Or at least maybe half of a soft reboot, I'd say. Albert Jackson says, hey, Trev, I feel like no one is talking about Walker. What do you think happened to him? Will they bring him back I think he was such a cool character. I'd like to see him come back. And yeah, that's true, man. I'd like to see Walker come back too, because again, they just don't have that many, survivors. But I don't think he's somebody you could have as really a fan favorite. He's quite vicious and brutal when he needs to be, right, with scalping people and stuff like that. So I don't know if you could have him be like a full-on good guy. You can kind of have him be sort of halfway there. But I don't think you can replace Nick with someone like Walker. That's a gaping hole Fear's going to have now after he's left. Khalid Fuller says, I agree. I really feel like Fear is a mess because we don't know so much since they did a time skip. And it feels like they did 2 time skips because they are being slow about telling us what happened with the Vultures and the Diamond. We don't know how they found Charlie. We don't know what the Vultures did to the group to make them hate them, so much to the point where Nick would kill one of their guys. And we don't know why Charlie is so attached to the Vultures that she would kill Nick. So you're right. There are a lot of questions about Fear right now, and it does kind of feel a little bit messy, but I'm invested in it. I'm engaged in it, and I like kind of the way they're showing both storylines with the stadium part and then kind of the modern, and they're kind of working them in together. And I think that the stadium does fill in a pretty big gap for the Fear group and the time skip, because we get the sense that they were at the stadium for a long time, and so that takes up some of the time in between. They must have gotten there somehow in Texas. We don't know that part from where season 3 ended. But then once they got there, they stayed there for such a long time, and then there's probably some kind of a time skip since then to where we're seeing the group now. It looks like they've been surviving kind of on the road for at least a little while. So it looks to me like they pretty much are using the Vultures as kind of a nice stepping stone in between, a missing link in between, but there are some other missing links in there. So I hear what you're saying with that as well too. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's been certainly something to discuss so far with the decisions they're making and the things that they're doing. Franco Blondie says, well, that's it for Fear. Nick was the centerpiece for the show like Rick. They'll probably kill Alicia, and Morgan will bring whoever's left back to Alexandria. There will not be a 5th season. This season started off so good, too. So that's his opinion on the question of whether or not we'll get another season of Fear. I think we will. We did a video on that this week also, so thanks for that one, Franco. I kind of used that in the previous video. Sean Williams says, Trev, it makes you wonder if Maddison is even alive, because so far we are seeing and how the synopsis for the rest of the episodes of the first half explains or shows all the events of Maddison is in the past, where when they were at the stadium, and in the present all we see as the leftovers so far is Lucy, Alicia, Strand, and Nick, who just died. Interesting to see how this plays out. Yeah, man, it's crazy. If they do kill her off, then you only literally have like a few characters from the entire first 3 seasons. That's like an average of 1 character per season gets to live. That's crazy. That's worse than Game of Thrones. Fear the Walking Dead is more gutsy than Game of Thrones, right? Daffy Deb says, Trev, Madison's attitude will change big time when she finds out about Nick. I got the feeling Nick thought those guys were pedos and wanted to save Charlie. Now I'm pissed at Frank. He's young and could have stayed at least a couple of more years before taking off to do other stuff. And I agree with you, Daffy, absolutely. He could have at least gotten, a couple more years out of Fear, and it would have been good for everybody. Would have been good for the audience, would have been good for him, I think, but whatever. The Archer says, they definitely should have kept Troy. And yeah, at this point now, I would say 100% having Troy around would have been really interesting. Also to see how he would have reacted to the Vultures. He'd probably be in Madison's ear every day, yelling at her, like losing his mind. Like, we gotta attack, you just leave him there, we gotta do something. He would have been going nuts, or gone out by himself and attacked them. Which, see, we could have used Troy right now. That would have been cool, man. They could have. Big mix up there on Madison's part. Alpha Saturn Winters says, Q&A Trev, what if this is the motivation for Maddison to kill the Vultures? Also, I wonder if they kill Charlie or keep her alive. And yeah, that's really true. Would they kill Charlie at this point, or would they allow her to live if they're able to capture her or something? I would think that Maddison would probably kill her, but that's going to be really dark and hard to... Man, that's going to be tricky, right? To see how Madison's going to respond to that. I know Morgan probably would not kill the kid, but then again, she's like a Lizzie situation, right? You need some flowers, right? So it's what it is. Diz TV says, Trev Q&A, do you think the Fear group knows it doesn't know how the person passes, they turn? So, okay, so for this week, because Nick was shot, I think what Diz is saying is, do we think the Fear group realizes that someone can turn if they weren't bitten and if they were just shot and died? I'm not sure if they do know that. That's something that I can't recall in the first few seasons if we saw someone turn that was not bitten. So I don't know if they know that information. I'm not sure if that's privy to them. I kind of think they probably wouldn't go that route because we accept it as canon now and it's so familiar for us that they probably wouldn't bring that up and use that for a storyline because that's already been done. You can't really do it again and have them be surprised. But if they are, then we might see it tonight because, he's dead and his head is still in shape. So we'll have to see how they respond to that. They're going to have to use it in some way. Maybe he will turn and they will be surprised because I don't recall them ever having kind of that moment, aha moment, where they figure out that if you don't take out the brain that someone does come back, even if they weren't bitten, if they were shot in the heart or something, for example. Tweets 33. I'll have the last one who says, characters you get attached to die. I fear Morgan won't make it out either. His wound will only get worse, and I hope these new characters, John and Althea, are worth watching. I don't think they can kill off Morgan too, man. They need somebody around, and at the very least, you got to have Morgan. Hopefully, Morgan and Maddison and Alicia. The others, I don't really care. I mean, not so much. Those are like maybe B or C for me. I'd put them down, less important on the list than Morgan and Maddison and Alicia. So yeah, and let's do one last one from OU Fancy Huh. Says, hey Trev, do you hate the new intro as much as I do? The original was perfect in my mind, but either way, gotta love the show, love your videos. Thanks for everything. So I appreciate that, and thanks back for watching, and thanks for all you guys for watching. So the new intro for Fear, I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of got this lackadaisical, like relaxing type of intro feel with the clouds and everything, and the stadium and that. So it's kind of cool. It's certainly different from what we're kind of used to. It's a different speed than what we're used to, and I guess it's cool. I thought the first intro was pretty good where it's got this like intense, but they kept changing the music every time, and I thought like that's okay too. But I'd like to see some kind of, really horror type intro for Fear. Kind of like what they had originally, but, it's okay. It's different from what we're used to, and I guess that's a good thing. Anyway, that'll be it for today's video, guys. Of course, we'll see you back again tonight for the review for Episode 4 after it's done airing and predictions and all that good stuff. If you like this video, please don't forget to thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it, and you can do it. You can subscribe at the bottom. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.